I have my friend RJ here. He dropped in. We got to talk about some things we see on Twitter. I just tweeted out. Let's get started. First thing, obviously, I want to talk about this because I'm gonna pull the article up. You seen the story about John Kasich? That was the big story yesterday. And Joe Biden's potential cabinet pick.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up so we can actually look at it because I've been warning people. I actually said this a long time ago, and I was joking with Jackie, and we were saying she was like, "How are you surprised about this? We were literally talking about this on our show." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I already seen it coming, but it's kind of scary when you see, like literally all my worst predictions coming true ever since Super Tuesday." And one of the predictions I made, I was pretty much upfront with. I didn't like how progressives like just automatically gave away all their power straight out the gate, and because they did that, it made it harder for the left to negotiate with Joe Biden. It allowed Joe Biden and the Democratic Party to shift to the right even more, and a lot of people that was doubting the fact that it was shifting to the right, now that they have these conversations about his cabinet picks being um, leaked and being discussed and widely distributed, it shows that they literally have Republicans, Republicans that they have on the list. And the one I want to talk about the most is a guy that people drive me crazy. During 2016, during the primary, I remember back before I didn't have back when I didn't have a voice. One thing that used to drive me crazy back then was whenever I used to see people on the left, not people on the left, but I would say Democrats, liberals, whatever. They will prop up John Kasich, man. And if you look at his actual record, and he was pretty smart. He took the he presented himself as the like the rational, moderate, centrist, or center right conservative in 2016.
Right.
But that was not his record. Like that is not his record at all. When it comes to John Kasich, he's about as far right you can get on the Republican Party. He toes the party lines.
I'm gonna add some context to this for a second. So just to get back with what you said about the left, actually most of the blame should be on Bernie Sanders, to be honest,
I can hear
because
you. I hear you on
even
that.
even before when he dropped out, I mean, every time he would mention my good friend Joe, and he handicapped his own movement by saying, "I will support the Democratic nominee no matter what." So if it was Michael Bloomberg, you could have seen Bernie Sanders out there. So there's those two pieces. And basically, after Bernie dropped, I mean, the entire squad and the rest of the progressive, even left, fell in line. And Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden's entire political legacies are on the line because Bernie Sanders cashed in his entire movement for a Senate committee spot while at the same time throwing it all on Joe Biden. And right now, Joe Biden, with John Kasich and these Republicans coming in, he's kicking out at the base of his party. At the
Right.
same time, Democrats historically since Bill Clinton, they've got the presidency for 2 years, lose the midterms, and then have Republican House and Senate for the next 6 years. 92 Bill Clinton. After that, next 6 years, uh, complete Republican control. Barack Obama 2008, 2010 to 2016, complete Republican control. So this is all in Joe Biden's hands. And back to John Kasich.
Yep.
Um, John Kasich, he's basically your standard Republican, but I think this is what the Republicans are doing to the Democrats, which they always do. Democrats are suckers for temporary power because they never do anything good when they're in the minority. They never filibuster, they never fight back. So what the
Right.
Republicans know this time is, hey, we can't win with Trump. We're gonna win and we're gonna lose in a landslide. We may can't even filibuster. The whole point of a filibuster too in the Senate is When any senator can filibuster, you only need one senator to filibuster, but you need 60% of the Senate to vote for a closure. So if you don't have the votes for a closure, that's why Democrats are talking about getting rid of filibuster. So that's some context on that. So people
Right.
like John Kasich want to take over the Democratic Party from the inside. That when the midterms come, they can flip and say, "Well, look, we're bipartisan. Look, we're recreating the Republican Party. We're
Exactly.
not Trump." So they can do that. So that's just my pieces.
Yeah, that's exactly their long term plan. And one thing that was clear to me when I saw the rise of the Lincoln Project, and when I saw John Kasich was given a speaking spot at the DNC, there was a lot of people that was very delusional about the situation that was going on at that time, because at that point it was clear to me that they got something in return for their services to Joe Biden, because these people, they're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They are
Exactly.
they're professionally political operatives. The thing is, what happened is that Donald Trump came through and stole their party away. Donald Trump came in, and John Kasich, he made a gamble that Trump was going to lose. So
Well,
he
actually,
went. Go ahead, bro.
I'm actually disagree with you. Before coronavirus, I remember watching the State of the Union. It was the most magnanimous political move I've seen really since Lyndon Johnson. And I want you to listen to when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump, he pandered to every single faction of the Republican Party. Everybody was happy. The Libertarians were happy because Donald Trump bragged about stopping a war. There's context. This is not necessarily true, but you get what I mean. He knows
I
how to
hear you.
placate. He had Rush Limbaugh, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So all the actions in the Republican Party that have issues on race, I'm being extremely generous when I say that. You have the Reagan Republicans. He brags about the tax cuts, and even your most, I would say, economic friendly Republicans. He brags about how well the stock market was starting to be and how well it's translating to working people. And what I'm saying all that for is this: is that Republicans only hate Trump now because coronavirus is Trump's Achilles heel because he's done so bad and he can't fake it.
Right.
He Before that, Trump can get away with it because he can have people, he can delegate power. Okay, it's this guy's fault, this guy's fault. When you have national crises, the president is always responsible. I mean, look at Bush. He had three: 9/11, Hurricane Katrina,
Yeah.
and the 2008 financial crisis. That's what torched his presidency. So that's why they're jumping ship. They liked Trump before, all the way up to coronavirus. It's just now that when their political lives on the line, that's when they jump ship. And Trump is realizing that because now that Trump wants this new stimulus deal, he actually wants $2,400 now for the American people. But the Republicans are jumping ship because they know he's going to lose anyway.
Right. Yeah. That's
Half the
why.
Republican Party.
Yeah. That's why
Yeah,
Mitch
go ahead.
McConnell is kind of like he's openly undermining the president, right? Because for the Trump said he wanted the deal, and Mitch was like, "No, we're not doing that." So that's that kind of back up what you're saying. Now the Republicans kind of backing away from Trump because they seeing how he's doing in the polls, and there are a lot of people that skeptical of the polls for good reason because of 2016. But I'm just based on what I've seen and based on the campaign he is running, I believe him. I believe. I mean, if I was seeing something different, if I saw like this overwhelming MAGA support, I'll be like, yeah, I think it's gonna be upset. But right now, I'm seeing the trends of overwhelming Biden victory. Just because it seems like Trump lost the boomers, but you never know because you never know. There's actually that like hidden Republican support that not able to be gauged. There's also the concern that there's a higher percentage of third party voters that they may not be accurately predicting, especially out of the Libertarian Party because the last time the Libertarian was. Sorry, the
Trump.
Libertarian and Green because they showed the Green was at 3%. So you never know where they'll be at. And you never know what they can steal away. You never know because there was just another poll that came out that said most Americans feel like they in a bare spot they are with Trump. But the problem thing for Trump is after the debate his numbers tanked very bad. That's why I'm going the direction of I think Biden is the favorite just because it was like poll after debate you saw Biden was really hurt. Trump was really hurt after that performance.
Right.
But this is I'm gonna pull this up here. This is my problem I have with going back to Kasich, because this is my problem with him, because my thing is, when I mentioned earlier, their whole idea at first when they got behind Joe Biden, because as soon as Bernie Sanders lost, they knew it was safe for them. They knew it was safe for them to infiltrate the Democratic Party, because there's no way in a million years you will have the Lincoln Project, you will have any of these people join Bernie Sanders campaign. There's just no way that will happen. They would just I think they would just join Trump and try to defeat him, or they would stay out of it. But with Joe Biden, they see a guy who is very similar to him on policy points. Like when you look at their foreign policy, that's one thing I always talk about. And this is kind of what I was going off on earlier today. I noticed a trend because I watched that ContraPoints video. And believe me when I say this, I never ever watched ContraPoints before. I heard of it, but I don't have enough time to pay attention to everything, right? So I heard she's decent. Mm-hmm. I take their word for it. I never watched her before. But I made like 4 minutes in. So to be fair to her, I didn't watch the whole video. But it started off and it was rough. It was rough. Because she immediately made the assumption that I'm seeing a lot of people make. They say the reason why I'm not supporting Joe Biden, the reason why people are voting for the Green Party in the first place, is because Joe Biden is not progressive enough. Oh, you got the left wing of the party throwing a temper tantrum because Bernie Sanders lost. Which I admit, maybe a little bit of that. But most importantly, more than anything, there was a few people I made my mind up on from the very beginning I wasn't going to vote for. Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, Amy Klobuchar was like the top 3 at first. And then you have people that campaigned their way into that list. You know what I mean? Because you had like new up-and-comers like Pete Buttigieg, Beto. He was already showing some red flags. Kamala, she had a lot of issues, but she was back in Medicare for all. It's like if any of those people would have ran a progressive campaign and shown the, like, and they would show they at least fought for some like the progressive ideas, because people forget Kamala, she made a good political move at first to support Medicare for all. So if she imagine, once again, this is the only thing speaking hypothetical at this point, right? Imagine if she ran up with like a super progressive campaign. She didn't like really take big money, and she just tried to outflame Bernie and won. Like in that situation, I would be kind of a dick not to vote for her, right? Like in that hypothetical. But in this reality, we had a centrist candidate who ran a campaign against the left, and you had a whole Democratic Party coalesce around him and ran a very shady primary, like in Iowa, for example. The exit polling was kind of shady, and the fact that Barack Obama, a lot of people came in. That's literally their rebuke of the left. But I made a video before how I could have voted for them, despite that. But they didn't do that. They were doing the exact opposite, as evidence of the story.
Yeah, and I'll add this too. I'll give you another hypothetical. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, for one example, and hear me out on this. Mayor Pete possibly has all the intangibles for a modern president, for a modern really candidate.
He's gonna be a threat, man.
No, what I'm saying is like he had all the intangibles, but he chose to be a corporate Democrat. And here's the reason why: 1, he's gay, so he has the LGBTQ vote, depending on how he plays it. 2, he's military, so he gets a lot of veterans. 3, his father was a Marxist, so he knows all the principles. Like, this isn't something you can just unlearn or forget about.
Right.
Number 4, he did win Iowa. So, well, that's skeptical, but he did win a lot of votes in Iowa. And 5, too, the reason why I was attracted to him in the first place is I couldn't figure it out. I was like, this guy talks so clean, he talks smooth, I like the way he talks. Then I figured out, it's just like Obama. So it's the spell again.
Yeah.
And when it came down to it, he chose to be a corporate Democrat. So it's that thing too.
You know why I think that happened? I have my theory. I mean, and I seen this observed. Pete, and this is one of the reasons why I remember I said my original 3 that from the very beginning I said I wasn't gonna support, and that was Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, and Michael Bloomberg. No way, that wasn't gonna happen. Any one of those 3. and Democrats fucked up. They picked one of them. It was Joe Biden. But you notice that Pete wasn't one on that list because at first Pete was like, and you made a good point when you mentioned that because he had a Marxist father, he know that a lot of left theory as well, even though he may hide it. Because I remember he was asked about Medicare fraud very early on, and he actually had a pretty good answer. His answer at first, and it was like maybe around last February or so. All right, nice. I'll put you on here now. Last February, so he was asked about Medicare fraud, and he was like, actually, Medicare fraud is more the middle ground. Because if you look at the NHS system, NHS is like the government. Like, he actually explained it in the proper way. He's like, Medicare fraud actually the middle ground compared to some of the health systems. So I saw that. I was like, okay, so Pete is at least endorsing Medicare fraud. I don't know anything else about him. He apparently has shady. That was my original thought about Pete because I was like, I saw him.
Well,
but go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Just to add about Mayor Pete, the one reason why I liked him too is because he didn't play. He wasn't an Elizabeth Warren in a sense. Elizabeth Warren flat out said, "I would not go on Fox News." They peddle propaganda, even though that's CNN and MSNBC as well. But just about Mayor Pete was he was willing to go and talk to Republicans. That means a lot to me. You know why? Because Fox News is the number one watched news station in America. Okay, you can't just cancel basically half of America watching a news network. That's why I admire any progressives like Glenn Greenwald. Even Jimmy Dore has been on Tucker Carlson's show a lot.
I agree.
Because what you need to do in order to convert someone, you must first be in their shoes. You have to understand how they think and how they live their lives. So as leftists, we can't just throw socialist principles at them. It's going to repel them. We have to use it in their language and then bring them to the left with our policies. That's why when Glenn Greenwald went on Fox News the other day and said, "Hey, Mr. President, the very same people who have been giving you hell the last 3 years are the very same people that's thrown Edward Snowden and Julian Assange in prison and threatened his life." So he's playing to Trump's ego to get a leftist principle, letting a journalist who reports facts free. That's what I admire. And let's be very clear, Mayor Pete didn't really do that. I just admire the first step, which is actually going on a media network that's not necessarily going to be nice to you. And Bernie Sanders did the exact same thing. That's why Bernie and Mayor Pete were my top three.
Yeah, and so that's how Mayor Pete started. But then the race began, and this is what happened. They had him planned it from day one. And what made me suspicious is when I read the New York Times article, and a lot of people forgot about this and they didn't want to bring it up. Well, they said they had to stop Bernie Sanders coalition, and guess who was part of that meeting? Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, and a few other Democratic parties. I think Chuck Schumer was there as well. There was a few other big names that was there, but those are the three main relevant people right now. And so that's when Pete adopted Medicare for All and he was pretending to be a progressive. I was like, okay, that's their game plan. Because remember, at the same time, you had Kamala Harris, who was still pretending to be Medicare for All. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, who was pretending to be Medicare for All. So it was clear to me that was their game plan at first, was to try to peel off Bernie Sanders support by pretending to be progressive. And then once they saw the polling, once they saw that Bernie Sanders was a strong second and he was polling ahead of all of them and everyone else was doing weak, they literally had, it was literally last summer, I noticed it in live time, where they had literally almost like a mid primary strategy change amongst the whole party and the whole everyone in the race immediately start dropping Medicare for All. They all start running centrist. They did that because at first they wanted to still Bernie Sanders support, and then they realized it wasn't working, and they're like, all right, so we gotta do the Voltron strategy. I think that's literally when they came up with it, like late summer, early fall. I think that's when they literally came with the Voltron strategy, because they're like, fuck, Bernie looking strong, and it worked. they ran all centrists. They built a coalition. They tricked a lot of the American people, all of them above age 50, because Bernie Sanders still won 50% of the voters below age 50. But there's still a large amount of people they used to defeat the Bernie Sanders coalition. And what I told this story on Twitter, and they have Pete Buttigieg. They push him out on Fox News. They pushing him out on there. He got a shit ton of fanfare from all the media. Never asked any tough questions. Just giving him a chance to shine, and they always propping him up. So it's clear that he's the next one. Like, it's clear they grooming him to be the next guy. And this is
Yeah.
why that's very unfortunate and that's very scary. But I was like, guys, it's not gonna happen because Pete approval ratings and the amount of support he was able to get from the key demographics of the Democratic Party, African Americans, Latinos, it wasn't happening. Like they propped him up. They gave him a lot of screen time. Even had that big false media victory that they propped up. He won in Iowa. And the thing is, like the primary was set up perfectly for him to get the momentum because you had Iowa, you had New Hampshire, and you had those two
One thing,
popular. Go ahead.
one thing I will say is that support doesn't matter anymore. I mean, we've seen with Donald Trump. I mean, he stays at what 39% approval rating his entire presidency, and he not only wins the presidency but whips the Democrats anytime he wants.
Yeah,
And
that's the
so
power
I
of the
guess
media.
yeah, that the
Yep.
media helps him out too. And so I guess what I'm getting at too is with Mayor Pete and all, and really with the left in general, like to me, that's why I don't really cancel anyone who supported a certain candidate. All I try to do is help
Yep.
them understand what happened and support on policies. Because hey, I've been there. Like I,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I'm
mean,
friends
yeah,
with a
I'll be
lot of people.
tired
Like
and bothered.
I'm friends with a lot of people from Yang Gang.
Yeah,
I'm good friends with Nico House too, and a lot of people don't like Nico. I mean, cause he's a big Toasty person. But just like you said, I didn't cancel people just because they didn't support. It's about the policy and anyone who's like hardcore support of Medicare for all and the wars, fighting climate change, doing these real key fundamental things. They are gonna be an ally to start. If we get off on the right foot, you can be a very strong ally. You can have some people that support those things and they make political moves I may disagree with. For example, like I criticize Bernie and the squad a lot, but I tell people just like you said, I don't cancel people. It's just a lot of people are sensitive. I mean, a lot of people.
oh,
There's a big celebrity hero worship problem on the left that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it is this. It definitely is this. And like I said, I like Ilhan. I like LC. I like those. I like all these people, but like if you mess up, I'm gonna talk about you, and that get me in trouble sometimes. But like I said, I don't cancel them because they still we need to build an army and we need the votes necessary. I
yeah,
tweeted out. Go ahead.
and I agree with celebritizing and idolizing politicians. I mean, on the left, we're guilty of it too. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean,
As
Bernie
well.
Sanders was our fucking Jesus. I mean, he really was. I mean, he's the person that's really radicalized me, help understand the situation that's going on. And then he broke my heart. Like all of us, we were all like, "Oh no, Bernie wouldn't do that to us." Like it's the stages
Yeah.
of grief. At first, we didn't think he'd do it to us. The second time, we thought it was us. Like, oh, maybe we didn't fight hard enough. Maybe we didn't do enough to support his campaign. Maybe we didn't donate enough. Maybe we didn't outreach enough. Then the final stage was grief, like, oh, all this work we came into. Then the next stage was anger. Now we're angry at him. And I think now, once we get rid of this anger, then we can really start being productive. So that's why I talk to certain leftists, and I'm like, look, guys, we're not as good as, these other guys are, especially other liberals. So we have to understand, too, where people are at. And I think the biggest challenge for the left right now is we need to start going after Trump people and not in a way as you mean, not canceling them. This is how you do it. Do it like Jimmy Dore does, Glenn Greenwald,
Yes.
all these guys that go on
Amen.
Fox News. Use their language and rhetoric, but push left wing policies. And the reason why I say that is this: if the left was smart, see, Donald Trump, he only cares about what's going to get him elected. So if we have to if we have to get coronavirus bill, the stimulus checks of $2,400 a month to get out, but pet Trump's ego, that's money going to people. That did you know the first check lifted millions out of poverty? So if the left was smart, this is because the establishment Democrats, they're going to crush us anyway when Biden gets in. So might as well get something now. Give us a fighting chance. The unions just didn't go on strike. They planned beforehand. They prepared. We have to get better at our preparation skills. So what the left should have done, like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, even some that aren't elected, geographically, actually break against your party because the
Exactly.
Republicans did it.
Yes.
Mitch McConnell said, Donald Trump, fuck you, you're losing. I want to make sure my pick gets in there so my legacy
Great
looks
point.
good. So if the Democrats come in, the courts will just knock down what anything to do anyway. So if the left actually sided with Trump on policy, which they never do because they're told not to by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, that's splitting the Congress in half again. Now the public opinion is going to flip to your side because if the Democrats stuck with If the progressives stuck with the establishment Democrats, that's 50. Then the establishment Republicans, they break from Trump and go to Mitch McConnell, that's 75-25. You get nothing. That's
Right.
how it works. So the left, in terms of strategy, is really bad. And that's why we've been getting kicked in the dirt since Bill Clinton.
Exactly, and I don't know why people are afraid to say that because to me it's clear, and that's why I like the movement of People's Party now because I actually talked to Nick Brana and I had a lot of people that had conversations with him as well, and their strategy is literally what you just laid out. His strategy is we got to win over the right wing working class that the liberals and the corporate media and the Democratic media operatives they want us to cancel them. And this is something I warn the left about all the time. You have these people who are not our friends, these people who are not our allies, the the Democratic corporate wing of the party, the Joe Bidens, the now Jennifer Rubin is one of them, like Joyanne Reed. Those people are not our friends, and so the extent they pretend to care about us, they give us bad advice on purpose because that's kill two birds with one stone.
Well, one thing.
I'll let you go right to this. It kills two birds with one stone
Mhm.
because it allows them, it gives them the image of them caring about us, and it also wipes us out at the same time. So they'll say some shit like, oh, like when Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders, for example, like, oh no, you can't buddy up with him, the more popular podcast host. Oh, you can't talk to the people, you can't talk about to the white working class that voted for Donald Trump in 2016 because they are deplorables. Like they give us this advice because it's bad advice. Like these are the coalition we need to grow to win. And to your point, and I'll pass it right back to you. Your point was you think the progressives should go after the Democratic Party more, and I say yes, because you know how what that does. That wins you the independent right leaning voters, and this is a problem that AOC had. A lot of people looking at AOC polling, and she does good with left independents. She does good with Democratic partisans. Actually, a lot of people actually underestimate the fact that she does actually well with the standard Democrat Elizabeth Warren style voter. But what she's hurting right now, will make her little, and what's hurting her electability is that right leaning independents, like the Tim Pool crowd, the Ben Shapiro crowd, the hardcore right wingers never gonna break for her because they demonize her to a point. But you got the right independents that are not gonna support her because her mistake. She leaned a little bit into the Democratic Party culture war talking points, the culture war stuff that's important at some degree, but you got to make your focus more about grassroots policy, and that's how you want to. And AOC has that, and this is the blame can go on the voters too because AOC actually do have some very solid working class policies, but they see her teaming up with Nancy Pelosi instead of attacking her. And if she attacked her, you will see a lot of things that happen with me. I literally have right leaning independents and libertarians reach out to me all the time, like, man, dude, I fuck with your politics. Like, I hate the Democrats. You can literally have that. Like, once again, I'm not trying to prop myself up, but imagine how irrelevant I am, and then multiply that scale to AOC, and she could have that effect to that magnitude. Like, if I can affect my little small pocket of right wing libertarians that like me, imagine how much that would grow if AOC did the same thing. You know what I mean? So I think that's a mistake she made. But now,
Yeah.
what was your point earlier?
My point. Well, I actually forgot my point earlier, but I'll speak on AOC. So what confuses me is why would AOC want to attach herself to someone with a lower approval rating than Donald Trump? Like I could never forget.
Right.
I could never
She's an
figure
easy
that part
target.
out.
Like Nancy Pelosi is
But
an easy target. Go ahead, bro.
yeah, one thing I will say though is, on one hand, in terms of public opinion, is bad, but in terms of political power, it's brilliance. Now, think about this. In the 1940s and 50s, there was Lyndon Johnson, right? He ran as a New Deal Democrat for Congress. Then he got into the Senate. The first thing in the Senate, who did he go to? He went to Richard Russell Jr. He was a segregationist senator from Georgia. Now, why would he go for him? Because he has the power. He knows, hey, if I cuddle up to him, I'm sacrificing my own ideology
Right.
sometimes, but I know where the power is. They can never get rid of me because if I throw them a few bones and I keep their secrets, I do some of their work. When it's my time to get into power, they'll back me up. That's what Richard Russell did. Richard Russell broke from him politically after the Civil Rights Act of 1965. But for the rest of his life, they were still good friends. Now, I know I'm being a little facetious with AOC because it's modern times, but what I will say is this: there's two paths to this. She corrupts herself, or she uses that strategy for the future. Now, Chuck Schumer is going to be primary in 2022, and a lot of people on the left want her to run. One thing I will say is Chuck Schumer, he is an asshole and an idiot politically, but he's still a United States senator, and senators are very good at talking, getting their point across. So AOC, her popularity is good, grassroots. Like there's nothing that can top it. But the problem is guys like Chuck Schumer, who the establishment, they're very good at talking on TV. Who watches those Senate debates on C-SPAN? The boomers.
Yeah.
Like even some of like parents like 30 years older than me, they just trust these guys. I mean,
It
they
made
don't
no
have the
sense to me. I
time.
hate that. I hate that culture
Yeah,
about the boomers. They like, oh, I don't know who to vote for, so I'll vote for the incumbent. Why?
yeah,
Why would you do that? If
yeah.
anything, it would be the exact opposite. Like if I had that myself, like, well, I guess I'm hate the government, so I'm gonna just vote for new people. That would be my initial instinct.
And just to add again, when AOC got into power, she beat the third highest ranking Democrat in the House. I think his name was, I forgot his name. What was his name? I think you know who I'm talking about, right? But AOC, if she beats Chuck Schumer, I mean, you're talking about a massive, massive political victory
It
in
is.
2020. It's probably going to be the hardest. It's going to be the hardest
We gotta have
political
all
victory
hands on
in
deck.
decades.
Cause like you said, I
Yeah,
criticize shit out of LC, and I got a lot of friends that do the same. I got a lot of people that, or the people I got a lot of respect for those people. The people I'm talking about right now because they really like AOC, but they still like me. Cause that shows that even they can still they can still like somebody, but still be willing to listen to criticism. So I like my crowd, but at the end of the day, if AOC run against Schumer, guys, come on, like we got to get LC that
yeah,
victory because that would send shockwaves to the corporate Democratic Party, and I'm warning people, like I think AOC should wait until she be able to win the Senate seat before she should run for president because AOC is
exactly.
unlike any other Congressperson ever. Because I actually had someone ask me about this. They asked me why do you think AOC should win a Senate seat and should be proven, but you think Nina Turner should run? Well, for two reasons. Because LC is in a very, very unique position as a congressperson. A person who can get massive amount of attention just by launching a Twitch stream, who has an insane amount of followers on Twitter. God, I don't know. I mean, I didn't look. Millions of followers on Twitter. One of the highest followed congresspeople ever. So, yeah, her title is a congressperson. But if you think she got the same influence of like an Indiana Democratic congressperson, a California Democratic, like any random, like pick one congressman out of the hat. And do you think LC really got that same amount of influence? No, she's way more powerful than them in terms of influence and what she's able to get done. So that's why, as a left movement, we gotta weigh that option. So with Nina Turner, we have nothing to lose with her because she just grew her platform
Exactly.
significantly when she ran, when she was the main advisors to the Bernie Sanders
National program.
campaign. Yeah, and she was able to light up a room and show that she can fire up a multi working class movement. So that's a gamble that will be ridiculous not to take because once again, Nina Turner, we don't lose anything out of that. And throughout the course of this campaign, she's been proving that she can rally the base that we need. Because after Bernie's campaign, that movement got to go somewhere, and I really see that dispersing to Nina Turner. Like for example, I like Marianne Williamson as well, but Nina Turner is number one to me. I don't see the movement shifting to anyone else other than AOC. Like if AOC ran, that would be a disaster because we would have two giants. I think AOC would. I know some people may disagree with me on this; they're crazy, but I think AOC would definitely draw more support than Neil Turner right now, and that wouldn't be good. So that's why I said we need to
Well,
wait on AOC. Like this is my personal opinion. This is my personal. I'll let you go right to this. I think we should wait on AOC. Let her challenge Chuck Schumer. She up for it. If not, we should kind of rally behind Nina Turner. We can have Marianne Williamson in the race. I know Tulsi people want her back in. I wouldn't mind Yang to go back in the race just so we wouldn't have so many neoliberal corporatists. Cause we need that army to go against the Pete Buttigieg, the Cuomo, that new generation of neoliberals they're popping out right now that they always trying to pop up to be president. But what you about to say, RJ?
okay, what I was going to say is that to me, I don't think AOC should run. I don't think she should run for president. She's not seasoned enough. Like her popularity is great. Like if she endorses a candidate, I mean, their poll numbers are going up 15% automatic. I mean, look what she did for Ed Markey. Ed Markey was the most corporate Democrat, and now he's the millennials' hero. I mean, the
Yeah,
dude. I mean, he
that's
was moving.
powerful. See,
I mean, he was losing by 15 percentage points to Joe Kennedy. And
AOC killed
then,
the Kennedy dynasty. If you, we can put it like that, right?
yeah.
AOC
And
killed the Kennedy
the reason why
dynasty.
I say that is that AOC has the entire youth vote on lock. I
Yep.
mean, we all thought Bernie Sanders had that much power, but look at AOC. She endorsed Bernie Sanders. His poll when AOC endorsed Bernie Sanders in New York when she showed up to his campaign rally, he had 30,000 people there. That was the most. That was more than Trump's rallies. And to
Right.
get to Andrew Yang, to me, he's a good grassroots guy. He'll be a great senator, but he should not run for president again because we need him more grassroots.
I
Like
agree with that.
what I warn against is like I like lefties who have these policy beliefs and stuff, but if you're out there and you can't challenge power, you're useless to me. And so what it gets to my point too is that I think the establishment figured out a new plan. This is the new plan. You hear it from me first. The new plan is this: let the progressives win the House seats. You know why? Because as long as we have more than 50 of the House seats, they're not going to get anything passed anyway. So we give them this symbolic victory of things changing in America, but we still control the cards.
Yeah, interesting.
So what I think we should go after too is we need to go after the Senate. So
Yep.
we need to get some lefties across all 50 states in America to go after the Senate. We need to support people like Marquita Bradshaw in Tennessee. Shout out to her. She only raised what $3,000 in the primaries and won. Like, come on, we need to get people like that. So F the House for now. I mean, the Senate has all the power. I mean, look,
Yeah,
George
Paula James
H.W.
Sweargan
Bush.
is another one, isn't? Like she's in the Senate
Yes, Paula West
Yeah,
Virginia.
yeah, West Virginia. She's another big one to look out for. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah, and I was going to give you a historical sentiment because that's what I like doing. So George H.W. Bush in 1970, when he asked Lyndon Johnson, um, what's the difference between the House and the Senate? Because he was in the House, he wanted to run for the Senate. He actually said the difference between the Senate and the House. But anyway, LBJ responded, well, the difference between the Senate and the House is like the difference between chicken salad and chicken shit. So what that tells you is that even Lyndon knew, hey, the House is all fun and games, but the Senate is where the power is, baby. Any senator can kill a bill. So if we want real power in America, we got to go after the Senate. Why do you think they killed Charles Booker? Charles Booker was trending so high on election day, where they gave Amy McGrath millions of dollars, and liberals just gave the vote away weeks before the election. So when
They
Charles Booker
burned
looked
that
like he was
money.
going to win election day,
It's all
Amy
in
McGrath
grift.
she won with the absentee ballot votes. So that's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean I mean the whole Amy McGrath situation has proved that it's a giant grift because Charles Booker had the coalition, he had the energy needed to win. I mean, how embarrassing is it that Amy McGrath had 10 times more money than Charles Booker, but the race was even that close, and then you only had one polling location in I think it was Louisville if I got it right,
Yep.
and that's the biggest
Yep.
area of Charles Booker support with the African American vote, and it was like a ton. I think if I have the number correct, I almost want to look it up. I think like 600,000 people in one polling location. It was something crazy like
Yep.
that. I wish I got. I think I got that number right. Um, and that's the kind of vote suppression that won Amy McGrath the race. Any other breakdown doesn't cut it to me because if you have 600,000 people in one place, I almost want to look the number. I think that if I remember, I think that's the number: 600,000 people on that one polling location. But if you have that, that 100% affects the race, especially in an area that's such heavily to Charles Booker. And then you have ballots that was tossed. Like there was a lot of shadiness around that. And I said this in a joking way, but if you look at it, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, Chuck Schumer propped up Amy McGrath. It almost like he was doing his boy Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell a favor, and getting him an easy opponent because Mitch McConnell he plays a role for the Democratic Party establishment. Because I look at it like this, because a lot of people they look at politics in like a Disney way. Like they was like beloved, they are rulers that actually give a fuck about this. They're not. They care about their power. And Mitch McConnell is good for the Democratic establishment because his ability to shut down bills, and he's the fact that he's the Grim Reaper. So that means
Oh, yeah.
you don't get great policy like Medicare for all. You don't get any wars on the Senate floor, and you don't get these people exposed because when you see those votes come on the floor, like when you see the 10% military budget decrease on the floor, you see senators expose themselves. Like Kamala Harris, you see Kamala Harris
I
expose
mean,
themselves. With Mitch McConnell, he can block those bills to stop them from they'll put it on the vote. They love that gridlock. My point overall was I saw the debate with Amy McGrath and she's so inspiring, and there's a reason why she's so down the polls. We could have flipped this, but I think she's toast. What are you thinking?
Just to add, Amy McGrath, she's literally running a I'm more Trump
Yep.
than Mitch McConnell. So we'll see how that works out for her. And just to get even deeper, to go back to your point about Democrats actually liking Mitch McConnell, the reason why is because it's just a fundraising strategy. I mean, when Mitch McConnell said, "Hey, we're going to put Waffle Coney, Amy Coney Barrett, on Supreme Court," after RBG died, the Democrats got millions of dollars in donations. I guess that ridiculous. And just to add this point too,
And then they got all
why do
that
you,
donations, and then now I'm gonna pull that up as well. I want to talk about that. Her approval is through the roof. Like Mitch McConnell
I know.
is killing Democrats. But go ahead.
And just to add too, why do you think? Let me ask you this question: why do you think Donald Trump wanted Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House? Donald Trump wanted Nancy as Speaker of
Yeah.
the House because the Republican establishment can make millions of dollars. They can get so much money from billionaires just by advertising Nancy Pelosi as being this evil or sometimes radical left. And so, also, too, Donald Trump knew, hey, AOC, the entire squad was going to come after him for the emoluments clause, which is a very, very concrete case of impeachment. So he knew, hey, if I have Nancy Pelosi in there, she can crush the left, which she has, and I can get off scot free. Because if I just pressure her, she'll fold every single time. That's why Trump got everything he wanted that he couldn't with a Republican House.
Exactly, man. I'll just pull this up right here. I'll pull this up.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure I was correct on this. Yeah, the Louisville 600,000 in a single polling location, and just like you said, it's pretty much a fundraising grift. That's what like you raise all that money to stop the Barrett nomination, and then you have Democrat. You literally had Joe Biden who just said he likes he likes her and he supports her nomination. I want to see if I can find that polling I had because it showed that like people who get mad at me, like they accuse me of things that not even true. For example, they say I always help the Republican Party. I mean, I don't. I'm opposed to her judicial nomination, same way I was opposed to Brett Kavanaugh nomination. Cause I think they're disqualified. I think their stances on the Constitution disqualify them. For example, a lot of people are like, what? Brett Kavanaugh, he helped write the Patriot Act. That's a gross. That's definitely an unconstitutional bill. It breaks the Fourth Amendment, for example. So for me, I am like once again when I talk to conservatives, I outflank them on some issues. I say, hey man, I'm more constitutional on the law than you are because I'm like, bro, you're not fucking with the First Amendment, you're not fucking with the Second Amendment, you ain't fucking with the Fourth Amendment. I love all the additional amendments we had on, like the 13th and all that other stuff. And they like skip some, like they love the Second Amendment. Then they like completely forget the Fourth. And the Patriot Act is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. Anyone who's responsible for that should be disqualified from Supreme Court. On top of it, the Me Too allegations. So yeah, those double. It was like both of those combined. And anyone from the Federal Society, I'm like, no, you're disqualified. They're pretty much corporate bootlickers. And one of my main points about the Supreme Court is that we never win it. Like, like even if it's a Democrat chosen nominee, they all vote in a corporate style, in a corporate manner. Ruth Bader Ginsburg used the doctrine of discovery to rule against indigenous people on side of corporate America and their pipeline. So I wasn't mourning when this happened because I always tell people it's lost. We need massive reform or abolish either one, whatever we can get through. I think we should go for either one. Where you add some more, we gotta do something because it lost. Even if Joe Biden got those picks, our only chance to win back the Supreme Court was if Bernie Sanders won because could have potentially 3 picks. That was the only
Well,
chance. Go. What are you thinking?
well, to me, I'm going to have to disagree because one thing I've learned about Bernie Sanders is that it's kind of disappointing. Like he has principles, don't get me wrong, but in terms of how he actually played politics, it's very, very different. Like Bernie Sanders literally put his personal affiliation for another person over his entire movement. Let's just think about that. It wasn't a political strategy. It wasn't something new. He put his entire feelings over his entire movement.
Right.
And so, even back to the Brett Kavanaugh situation, I mean, the Federal Society, I mean, they're the ones who supported Trump in the first place. I mean, what Trump has done masterfully is people say all the time, Trump never takes credit, he never takes responsibility. Well, what he does is he puts the blame on you in the first place. Like, for example, the Federal Society came to Mr. Trump, oh, we'll vote for you, we'll support you. And you know what Trump said? Okay, you want these conservative picks? You pick them. Give me a name. I don't give a shit. I'll just put them on the court. And then when he put Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, and they all voted to uphold workplace rights for the LGBTQ community, they all got mad at Trump. And if I was Trump, I'd be like, what are you mad at me for? I only did what you asked. That's
Right.
why Donald Trump gets away with everything. So that's just
Exactly.
my opinion on Brett Kavanaugh too, because I don't know why liberals and everybody else is getting mad because that's what Trump does. He's done that his entire life. And what I don't understand too is liberals say, "Oh, this is how we beat Donald Trump." If you don't learn how he got there in the first place and his political strategy, you'll never know how to beat him. Trump is just shooting himself in the foot. He's not really losing. Well, he's losing, but it's not because the Democrats are so great. But I'll let you go.
It's this is the war I've been fighting recently because I mean I could easily leave them alone, man. I could leave the Democrat Party alone, but they keep going after Green Party voters. They keep going after people who have issues, legitimate issues with Joe Biden. And you made a great point when you brought up they forget how Trump got there in the first place, and that's a very brilliant point because you've seen like there's an active talking point that they're not even hiding. Where it's like we can't wait till this election is over so we can stop paying attention to politics. We can't wait to stop tweeting about politics, caring about politics, because everything to be fine when
Mark
Joe
Hamill.
Biden. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And there was many more. Like Jennifer Rubin had a tweet like that. There's a few other celebrities who came out and said that. And
George Takai.
and my thing is like this is the disconnect between us as independent leftists, as me as a libertarian socialist. They greatly. It's not that I underestimate how bad Trump is. I know I'm pretty sure I'm on the scale on that. It's that they underestimate how bad Joe Biden is, and I literally made a list, and this list is not even complete. That's a good way to bring it up. I just pinned this today. I wrote this a few weeks ago. I just want to pull this up, make it easy to reference, and just know when I wrote this, I literally did this on top of my head. Here we go. I did this on top of my head without really doing that much research. I'm like, let me like you guys don't know why. Let me adjust that a little bit. I don't like Biden. Let's list this off. Cause this is my premise. I'm like, dude, every time because I think about Trump, and especially around the time when he was propping up white supremacy, I'm like, man, there's times with Trump he's so terrible. You like, man, we just need to get rid of this motherfucker. But then I remember he wrote the crime bill that created mass incarceration. And let's go back to my rebuke of a lot of progressives because I mentioned earlier that they assume we don't like Joe Biden just because he's not progressive enough. It's not just because he's not progressive enough. It's because his crimes and the fact that he was complicit with almost every single bad action the U.S. government ever taken. So the crime bill is literally one thing that radicalized me was the criminal justice system. When you look at my political development with the Iraq War and you had the prison industrial complex, those are two big things that are supposed to make me hate Republicans. Joe Biden was responsible for all of that. He was part of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee during the Iraq War. He could have helped put a stop to this if he led a coalition against George Bush and if he whipped votes the way he whipped votes for the Iraq War. But he lies about this all the time. He whipped votes for the war, and he was a very strong advocate for it. I'm gonna go through this quickly.
Right.
We about hour. This wasn't about to be long. I'll let you. I'll let you in. But I want to read this all real quick. Um, all these issues. Also, I want you guys to think about the fact that what these things affect as well. Like I come at from the point of view of the disenfranchised, the people that said they're gonna be benefited. I didn't even click that. To be benefited by Joe Biden victory. Amendment to ease the burden of medical debt he voted against. That one's anecdotal. He ruined innocent man lives. That shows that he's just as bad Donald Trump. I already talked about that one. He's a staunch advocate of the Iraq War. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just shows an APAC in Israel, and they sponsor the apartheid state. So when you're talking about the most disenfranchised people, Apparently, you're forgetting about the Palestinians. Already talk about how if you support the Patriot Act, you're disqualified. Let me make sure this stream is. There you go. If so you're already disqualified doing that. Joe Biden wanted to increase the military budget. Kamala Harris voted against a decrease of that. He wanted to increase the military budget that goes directly against the Black Lives Matter movement. Joe Biden's against the Green New Deal, and he's very vocal about it. And he wanted to remind you about that consistently. He refuses to support Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic. He's a sex pest who raped Tara Reid, I believe, women. Joe Biden was a segregationist who said he didn't want his children growing up in a racial jungle. Once again, just another anecdotal, just showing that he's just as racist as Trump. Imagine if Bernie Sanders said that, and imagine if Bernie Sanders said he raped, if he was alleged to rape Tariq, can you imagine he would be immediately canceled? Also, once again, if you want to talk about disenfranchised communities, Joe Biden was the deporter in chief. So I guess you're not talking about Latinos. He helped build the cages that Donald Trump used. He set that precedent for Trump. So are you talking about Latinos? I doubt it. And hell, he even have immigration activists come up to him and ask him about it. He said, "Go vote for Trump." Now, I don't think I go through the rest of this because I pretty much cut it off there. And once again, I literally made this in like 5 minutes, like on top of my head. Like I didn't talk about the bankruptcy bill that much. I could literally go all day, and that's my point. What you thinking, RJ? I'll let you. I went on my tangent there.
What I will say is that the person who I'm trying to put this together in my head, but one thing I will say, the reason why this doesn't matter, everything you said is right, but it doesn't matter because there's two people that makes Joe Biden a centrist in mainstream: Donald Trump and Barack Obama. Barack Obama increases Joe Biden's good intangibles, but Donald Trump cancels out all of Joe Biden's bad intangibles. So that's why Joe Biden, in comparison to those two, well, he's right in the middle. That's why his appeal is so high. Because if you acknowledge, hey, Joe Biden did this to women, well, Donald Trump has done like 30 more. If you could, well, you can go back to Joe Biden's policies. They can say, oh, well, Donald Trump talks racist, Central Park Five. So you really can't have a good conversation. And the one thing I will say about Joe Biden is the smartest political thing he ever did is he did what his mentor told him. I mean, Strom Thurmond, Dick Russell, they were all trained. Hey, you go to power, and then when you give your chance, you cash in. So by Joe Biden, when it was early, like even his first interview, he said, "Hey, I went to the people with the money. They said, hey, come back when you're 40, son." He said, "Hey, I'm willing to prostitute myself to get to power." And the best thing he ever did was he saw where the wind was going in 2008. He said, "Hey, I want some of this." He went with Barack Obama. First thing he ever said, "Hey, this is the first one who's clean, who's articulate, a
Yep.
storybook, man." So look, I'm not saying everything Joe Biden did is bad, but what I will say is that in this time where it's so difficult economically, especially with this pandemic, I mean, it's almost like to normal people, it doesn't really matter because I mean, when your loved one is dying of COVID, when you're homeless on the street, you don't care about all the negative policies, all the intangibles. You just want to know, hey, are these two guys, whether we're in it or not, are these two, which one of these two guys is going to help me not get kicked out of the house, or have money to feed my kids? So everything you're saying is right, but for the most apolitical people, which is more than half of the country because they don't vote, that's basically all they care about. So I know I'm probably getting a lot of hate from the left for me about that, but that's just I've been talking to a lot of apolitical people, and I don't really talk to lefties about politics all the time. That's what Twitter's for, but I mostly talk to people who don't think the way I do, like Trump supporters, libertarians. It's always fun talking to libertarians.
Yeah,
So that's just my opinion.
that's an important point. I think that's something that a lot of people miss out on is talking to non-voters because I remember I had a conversation. One of the people, one of the liberals were going after me because they said they was implying that non-voters were privileged. I'm like, bro, have you ever talked to someone who don't vote? How out of touch are you? I talk to those people all the time. I mean, most people I know don't vote. And then when I went to South Carolina, I'll talk to people who never voted one time in their life when we was doing our canvassing work in the South Carolina black neighborhoods. They barely knew how to register to vote. These people don't come from privilege, and I think that's something that they miss out on. But we're our end. Do you have anything you want to bring up before we end the stream here? I usually like do these quick hours. Anything you want to bring up here before we end it here, RJ?
Well, just AOC. She third highest Twitch stream. So
That of
yesterday,
all
so
time,
for she
or yesterday?
yeah, because she yesterday for the she played Among Us
Yeah, I
on
know that. But
Twitch
so
with
she
some
like broke the record of all
people.
time.
Well, she's behind. Remember what's his name? Ninja did a stream with Drake on Fortnite, and then there was some other guy, but she's third. So
Damn, that's
it's
crazy. See,
basically
that's
it.
talking about her influence. That's insane. I know everyone was talking about it. I opened it for like 10 seconds. I'm not dissing her, but I opened up for like 10 seconds. I'm like, yo, this is a waste of my time. I don't, I don't know why I would watch this. But I mean, I'm talking about. I had a few friends that asked me to play on Among Us with us. I think we to do a stream. I think we still playing it right now. When I do it, that sounds fun. I don't know that much about that game. I'm a old out of touch man now, so I don't know that much about it. And then I opened up and I was like, oh, this. I can only imagine it was such a great way to reach out, ALC to reach out to the young people because there are people that criticize that move. Those people are idiots because even though it wasn't a move that appealed to me, what's the difference? That's way better than the alternative. What's the alternative? The alternative is a politician will go to a big fundraiser to raise awareness. They will have some sort of Wall Street guy host a fundraiser. They may have some big shot celebrity. That's not people power. That's not how you win. That what they usually do. So AOC and Ilhan, they're changing the game. So people who want to bash her, I think you're being short sighted. That's what I'm thinking. So
Yeah, and one more thing before I add,
go ahead.
before we go, is that studies have shown, the quicker you get young people into politics, and whoever they vote for, they mostly vote for life. So if a person like AOC is able to use Twitch to reach a massive youth audience, let's say the age of 13, right? 13 to 16. By the time they're 18, they're going to think of AOC and they're going to vote in that party. That's more influence you have. I mean, I think there's even a small grassroots organizations say you're not going to have a core group or even an outside core group that leads the movement. You're going to need supporters.
All right.
You need people that may not necessarily think your entire political belief, but if they believe in you and you can follow through, then that's going to help your movement. So that's why I bash Bernie Sanders so hard, because when he folded, the squad folded, and everybody else did. And that's how they win.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Well, that's a perfect way to send off. I appreciate you jumping on. This pretty much our quick 1 hour breakdown. And I have this replay like I used to do on YouTube. So I'll have that up pretty soon. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. Hit the subscribe, follow button if you haven't already. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, Progressive Martial Artist. Anything you want to plug? I'm gonna have your YouTube. And when I